Hello, welcome back. Thanks for joining me. No rumble, no reverb. What do I mean? Reverb, rumble go hand in hand. A lot of people roll off the high end, only get the sub up to 200 hertz depending on the taste of the producer, putting a reverb on it, playing with the different reverb sizes, the different types of reverb, off you go. Nothing wrong with that. Problem I have with that is majority of producers, especially beginners, are just going straight to that, which is fine because it can be done very well and it can work and it is effective. No dramas there. But I personally don't do that. There will be times I might use, I'll roll off the high end obviously naturally because we're talking about getting a low end energy. I'd rarely use reverb on my kicks. Doesn't say I haven't. Sometimes, depending on the situation, I may. I typically start with the kick, and how I get my rumble, or I call it the suck, how I get my suck is finding and warping sounds that fit in between the kick. I work visually, so here you'll see typically, especially when I'm doing kicks, I'm looping one kick drum so I can visually stack it from there. Kick drum group, I'll just have a main kick, I'll sort of process that main kick, layer it, and have a transient of some sort up top, just to give me the kick itself. When I go into my rumble, which is my suck group, I'm fucking with all sorts of different sounds that fit in between the kick. Obviously those sounds need to have some sort of low end information, but I'm not too fussed what the sound is. Typically, I'm looking for kick loops, full drum kit loops, anything like that, but it's more so the power of the Ableton fade. I'm going to shave it and fade it so it behaves like an offbeat sound or a sidechain sound. So if we just solo this kick group here, I'll always split into two. So the first half, second half. Always the main kick. Let's mute this. Typically the second half, the kick decay is sort of dying off, and I'm looking to fill that part. I understand there's some kicks that you might use already from a sample pack and stuff that where it's completely full. That's going to come into play later. My main kick, I'm typically want to have that room there. So soloing that, already decent on its own. But my approach in between is anything. Any form of audio that spans the whole way across the kick, I'll then shave it to make it behave that way. To naturally duck the start of the kick or the main power of the kick and then get that pumping sound or sidechain sound there. The beauty about this is you can do it with any sound, process the hell out of it, and chances are it'll be a lot more unique versus the typical way of doing it. And you can always hear the Ableton delay and the Ableton rumble on a lot of these kicks when they're trying to achieve the low end. So first off the rank, this is just an impact sound, which already has low end in it. Few things, you can just reverse that. That's already going to, and by reversing it, it shows you the waveform. It's going to behave like that. If we shrink these, this is why I love the fades, because we can manually sidechain basically and control the envelope, the character, the aggression, all through this. We can open that up as much as we like. And then again, reversing it the other way. We can be, the fades really just allow you, because you can even say, duplicate it, double up. This is where the delay part comes in. Do it that way. So what I'm doing is I'm typically I'll use any sound, I'll get into that later, but I'm typically looking for probably full drum loops, to be honest. And I'll be ducking the start of it, processing the shit out of it, going in from there. This is another example. This is a kick loop, so it's already been layered and processed, it's already been done. But you'll see, I've already got the start handled in my main kick. I just want whatever grit or attitude is past that main punch of the main kick. That's all I'm after. So then I'll look to start layering these. Now lastly, second last, this is another kick loop. It's got that aggression on the end of it. That ideally is my type of sound. Now you can see already how quickly we can change the whole pace of this. Just by playing with the fades. Once I'm happy, and let's assume I am, I'll consolidate everything so I get the new waveform. So I can sort of see the final shape of it in between my kick. So if we solo this group now, we'll call this suck. That's majority how my suck group goes in my production. Depending on the sounds, how they're layering together, I'm typically looking for 2 to 3 sounds. I'm shaping them with the fades. They've all got some sort of low end character. And then I'm just processing the group. Like and this isn't going to cater to all techno or anything like that. This is my approach for my style. I like that aggression off beat. And this concept can go into shreds as well if you're using sounds that have more higher end percussion loops, top loops. Shaping it this way can give you that offbeat white noise shred sound as well. My approach is for the low end. Now on the group, this is where I'll look to shape and tone things collectively and then go individually from there. So, you know, I like having that high end, just playing. I like that distortion, that grit in the high end. Then I'll process individually from there. I've already got an amp on this, which is making it intense. If you throw an amp on that group, it's just going to blow up to oblivion, which is my cup of tea. But that's typically the process. I'm not going to go into deep dives. I'm looking for drum sounds, typically drum loops. You can use full drum kits, shave them so they behave like a sidechain to get that pump sound. But then I'm strategically layering, EQing, and then processing the group collectively to get the final end result. I would go a lot further in each channel and then on the group. But what you're hearing now is the bass sound that the bass starting point that I would work with from here, which is exactly that, no bullshit. Next is same concept with shaving the audio, but this is where it gets really unique. My favorite thing to use is field recordings straight out of the iPhone. I've done similar things like this in other videos, but you just throw amp on a field recording, for my style anyway. Let's do this. Oh, let's turn the amp off, hang on. That says burning charcoal. I'm at a barbecue, my friend's cooking, he's lit the charcoal, I'm standing next to the charcoal with my iPhone, I've airdropped it to my Mac. You can hear it crackling, you can hear him talking in the background, you can hear the radio. But it's the amp, heavy setting, try all your settings. It's going to bring out all the shit in there, which is what I'm after. Instant techno. Obviously we can, I won't touch Q3, I'll just use the EQ on the amp, but you can see, you know, how many different ways you can take this on top of Now, I know that's more that way. So there's a few things you can do. You can find another part. And again, shape. Typically, when I've got the whole recording, I'll probably loop the kick. Let's do that. And just pick pockets out of it to see how it sounds. Let's say it's that. It's not, but let's say it is. Consolidate it, got your new waveform, loop it. Then, to be honest, I'd probably freeze this and flatten it to audio. Then treat it like its own sample, as you can see there. Probably leave all this as well in case you want it back. And now I can EQ, reprocess, and take it further and see if it's working with the main kick. I wouldn't be including it with this group. This is another example, just going from drums to field recordings. And any sound straight recorded from the iPhone, you throw amp or overdrive on there, it's going to bring out so much low end. It's going to be too much, but I like that because then you can sculpt and shave back from that rather than trying to add. In this case, we've got, this is called The Room, and I literally just was in a quiet room and hit record. And this is what we're getting. It's just sound. Oh, that's been lifted up to 20 dB, but that's just the sound of a room. So you can, up to your taste obviously, do what you will with it, whatever that may be. But then again, processing, you can go a more typical rumble sound. And again, I'd freeze and flatten that just to get rid of everything there. I've got this sort of bass note. I'm working in one kick drum. Obviously that's going to need some EQing and stuff. I could then see what sound that's given me, what fundamental controller dynamic EQ it, go from there. Obviously that's quite aggressive, the amp was quite loud, but this is the concept that I'm using, still use. Like, let's say that's it there. You know, you don't need it, always just use a fucking delay. You can create your own little gallops just by using the waveforms. Then another one I like to do is just random sounds that aren't percussion based. Synths, effects, glitches. Like, you know, that's not typically a kick drum sound. So what I would do in this case, if I'm using something unique outside of low end or kicks, is I'll have that group going and I'll find something else which isn't from the low end frequency range, but I'll have the same concept where I'll shave it that way and just try and get creative. And see if it can add a layer of texture or a layer of energy or make it seem like percussion. You know, something like that I'd be pretty happy with, to be honest. And like, let's say it's that I've just detuned at -7. Just by the fade. You know, we consolidate that new sample. manipulating it further and further again. 0. I like that. I'd see what it's doing, see if it's working with everything above. I would process that so much more. But all together, let's turn this percussion group down. That's something I would make. And if you're familiar with my music, you can probably hear that. So you know it's no bullshit. Let's consolidate everything. Let's loop it this way. Now here's the thing, right? Collectively, when you hear the whole song, if you're referencing, hearing this could be confusing of what that sound is or how we made it, but it can be really important to the end result of the song. And it's just that horse shit sound. So yes, that's how I like to do it. I don't use rumble, I don't use reverb. Get a sound, anything that stretches across the kick drum, shave it that way so it behaves like that, process it to your taste, see how you go. You don't always need a delay, you don't always need a reverb. You can create your own sound, be a bit more unique rather than using the same effects as everyone, and try it with all different sound sources. Go through your sample packs, go through field recordings, audio recordings, talk and yell straight into your speakers, see what that gives you. All these samples here were used out of the Green Fetish range. There's a link below if you want them. Check them out, and I hope this helps. Arrivederci. Thank you.